Before we end, is there anything you'd like to discuss?
How about the fact that I hate my son? I come home, he's sitting on the computer in his fucking underwear, wasting his time in some chit-chat room, going back and forth with some other fucking jerk-off, giggling like a little schoolgirl. Wanna fucking smash his fucking face in.
To be honest, I would want to do the same thing. Most Sopranos fans can forgive murder before they can forgive whining. Tony can go and strangle men with families. Christopher can shoot people when he feels like it. And Paulie, well, Paulie doesn't even need an example.
How much more betrayal can I take? I feel like I've been stabbed in the heart.
All things considered, and yet the character who seems to make viewers angriest is the teenage boy lying on the couch complaining that there is nothing to eat. Now, I'm not going to come here and claim this guy is a saint. Obviously, he was so annoying to watch, and I too felt like each of you and hated him. He is clearly lazy and spoiled. He talks back to his mother, wastes opportunities, quits jobs, crashes cars, and somehow turns every serious conversation into another reason to feel sorry for himself. The frustration is understandable. Still, before we write him off completely, consider what it actually feels like to be AJ Soprano. Your father is the boss. Every man in his circle watches you. Every relative has an opinion about what you should be. You are never just a kid having a bad day. You are Tony Soprano's son having a bad day. He can feel that he is failing to live up to something he never asked to carry. And nobody in that house ever once sat down and told him honestly what he was actually supposed to become. AJ did have everything money could buy. He grew up in a mansion, attended expensive schools, received unearned cars, and had parents willing to rescue him from most consequences. But here is the thing. He also grew up inside a home where love, fear, money, violence, shame, and denial were all mixed together so completely that he could never separate one from another. Everyone wanted him protected from the family business. Nobody protected him from what that business did to the family. That is the part I think people miss when they talk about AJ. His failures are real, and several are absolutely his fault. But the bigger question is whether he ever had a realistic chance to become the confident, disciplined son Tony wanted. Tony expected AJ to become strong while removing every honest path through which strength is actually built. Carmela expected him to remain innocent while raising him with money that made innocence impossible. AJ was told to become a man by two parents who panicked every time he moved beyond their control. People love to compare him with sons of other powerful men. Some children inherit the confidence, ambition, and hardness of their fathers. Some even surpass them. But expecting that from every child is fantasy. A son cannot serve as a second attempt at his father's life. He arrives with his own temperament, his own fears, his own limits. AJ enters Tony Soprano's house as a soft, curious, ordinary boy. The tragedy begins when ordinary gets treated like a defect. When AJ is young, his behavior is played for comedy. He looks confused during adult conversations. He repeats ideas he barely understands. He discovers Nietzsche and announces that God is dead with the confidence of someone who has read 3 pages and already wants to ruin dinner.
Death just shows the ultimate absurdity of life.
What is this? Are you trying to get me to lose my temper because I'm about to put you through that goddamn window?
See? That's what I mean. Life is absurd. There is no God.
Hey! You know that no God shit. That upset your mother very much.
It's not no God. It's just God is dead.
Who said that?
Nietzsche. He's a 19th century philosopher from Germany.
You got a lot of balls, you know that? You go to Catholic school and your mother wants it.
Yeah, what does she know?
She knows that even if God is dead, you're still gonna kiss his ass.
These scenes are funny, but they also show something important. AJ is actually searching. He is trying to figure things out, which is more than most people give him credit for. He asks about religion, history, death, politics, and the morality of people his family calls heroes. During the argument about Christopher Columbus, AJ has actually done the reading. He questions the violence and slavery involved in the story he has been taught. And Tony shuts it down.
So you finally read the book and it's bullshit. You remember when we went to Florida, the heat, and those bugs?
Well, like it took guts to murder people and put them in chains.
He was a victim of his time.
Who cares? It's what he did.
He discovered America is what he did. He was a brave Italian explorer, and in this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story.
AJ's facts matter less than the family story. This becomes a pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time AJ reaches toward a serious idea, the adults either laugh, get irritated, or close the conversation. He lacks the discipline to turn curiosity into knowledge, and nobody around him has the patience to show him how. His questions become another phase to mock, another dinner to survive. Think about what that does to a kid over years. The child who keeps asking what everything means slowly stops asking. By the time he is a teenager, he cannot explain why anything matters, and everyone around him treats that as proof that he is lazy and hollow. What they actually did was hollow him out themselves, one dismissed question at a time. A lot of people can probably relate to some version of this without living anywhere near organized crime. Some kids grow up hearing they can become anything, while every interest they show gets dismissed as impractical or embarrassing. Their parents demand motivation before helping them build direction. By adulthood, the kid has learned how to want approval and has no idea what he actually wants. From the outside, that looks like laziness. Inside, it often feels like standing in a room with 20 doors and believing every choice will disappoint someone. AJ's confusion gets worse when Meadow tells him what Tony really does. Until that moment, his father is simply the most powerful man he knows. Tony fills a room. People laugh when he laughs, go quiet when his mood changes, and treat the Soprano name like something heavy. A young boy could easily read that as greatness. The truth poisons the image without replacing it with anything stable. Tony is still the father who brings home gifts, attends football games, and jumps into the pool to play with his kids. He is also a criminal whose comfort comes from fear and suffering that AJ can sense without fully seeing. The house, the food, the cars, and the private school now carry a question nobody wants answered: what happened to somebody else so that we could have this? Meadows survives that question through intelligence and adaptation. She challenges Tony, leaves for college, and builds a whole language that allows her to defend the family when outsiders push. She talks about discrimination, government persecution, complicated social systems. Some of those points contain real truth. They also conveniently help her live with the source of her privilege. Meadow gets very good at placing a respectable frame around an ugly picture. AJ never develops that skill. He is too poorly informed to expose the family, and too morally uncomfortable to embrace it. He just floats between awareness and denial. He understands enough to feel contaminated, but lacks the confidence to name what is actually happening. And that position can make a person look weak, because every direction feels dishonest. Tony contributes to this every time he tries to parent AJ. His approach changes with his mood. One day, AJ needs toughness. Another day, he is Tony's little boy. Tony threatens, shouts, grabs him, destroys property, offers work, gives speeches about responsibility, and then softens because Carmela objects or because his own guilt becomes too heavy to carry. Carmela protects AJ from Tony's rage, then turns around and uses Tony's authority when she cannot control him. Each parent undermines the other constantly, and AJ learns that consequences are basically just emotional weather. Stay inside long enough and the storm will probably pass. None of that excuses the stolen exam answers, the school vandalism, the marijuana at his confirmation, or the contempt toward Carmela. Those choices deserve punishment. The problem is that punishment in the Soprano house almost never becomes instruction. Tony wants immediate obedience. Carmela wants peace. Neither one consistently connects AJ's behavior to something larger he can actually understand and carry for himself. The military school situation makes this really visible. After AJ gets caught stealing test answers, Tony decides discipline has to come from somewhere else. The school offers uniforms, schedules, rules, physical training, a clear structure. It is basically everything that has been missing from AJ's home. For a moment, Tony looks relieved. Somebody else might finally build the son he has been expecting. AJ puts on the uniform and sees himself in the mirror. Tony and Carmela tell him how handsome he looks. The pressure gathers around him. He collapses from a panic attack, which reveals that he inherited the exact same condition that sent Tony into therapy in the first place. Tony later talks about his rotten genes, as though AJ's suffering is proof of contamination. That reaction tells you a lot about why Tony stays angry at his son. AJ carries the part of Tony that Tony hates most. Tony has built his whole identity around aggression, appetite, charm, and physical courage. Panic feels humiliating to him. Depression feels passive. When AJ displays those qualities openly, Tony is basically watching his private weakness walk around the house in shorts asking for money. Self-recognition can curdle into disgust, and that is exactly what happens between these two. This is also why comparisons to other mob sons can be misleading. Jackie Jr. tries to follow his father's world and ends up dying alone in the snow. Vito's son responds to his father's murder and public humiliation by becoming disturbed, and the adults eventually pack him off to some brutal corrective program. Carlo's son gets arrested, which is what causes Carlo to flip to the FBI. Patsy has one son becoming a lawyer, and another running a sports betting ring at college who gets arrested for selling ecstasy. These children face no fair test. They scatter in every direction, and several get crushed. The successful kid becomes the example everybody remembers. The damaged ones get treated like personal failures. Real families do this all the time. One cousin handles pressure well, so another kid's anxiety becomes an excuse. One brother enters the family business, so the son who hesitates appears ungrateful. Temperament disappears from the conversation. Luck disappears too. People look at the result and rewrite it as character. AJ has little natural appetite for competition. He briefly succeeds in football, but even praise turns into pressure and helps trigger another collapse. He does not have Meadows' academic drive. He does not have Tony's social instinct or Carmela's practical determination. His strengths are quieter and less useful in his family. He can be sensitive. He can become absorbed in large moral questions. He can care deeply about people, sometimes too deeply. None of that gives Tony an impressive story to tell the men at Satriales. Blanca brings those buried qualities forward, and this is the part of AJ's story I think deserves more attention than it gets. Around her, he actually changes. He works construction, he gets up early, he earns money, he gets involved with her young son and starts imagining a future built around real responsibility. For possibly the first time in his life, AJ has a reason to try that has nothing to do with pleasing Tony or avoiding Carmela's disappointment. He is trying because he wants something. He still lacks maturity. He idealizes the relationship, proposes too quickly, exaggerates his future, and leans on Blanca to provide the identity he has not been able to build alone. But for one stretch of this show, the lazy rich kid who could not get out of bed looks like a young man genuinely trying to create a life. When Blanca leaves, what she takes with her is not just the relationship. She takes the only version of AJ that had ever managed to function. His grief looks excessive from the outside, and people treated it that way, but think about what she actually represented to him. Blanca was proof that he could live outside the Soprano house, do real work, and be needed by somebody. She was the one period in his life where the answer to, "What do you want?" had a real answer attached to it. Once she walks away, he goes back to that bedroom, and there is nothing underneath him. No independent self-waiting. No structure he built himself, just the house and the money and the question he cannot answer. A lot of people know this feeling without admitting it. You attach your whole future to a partner, a job, a creative project, or a dream because nothing else has given your life shape. When it disappears, people say there will be another one. But what the devastated person actually hears is that the only life that ever made sense was temporary. AJ's depression deepens while the world around him gets harder to ignore. He reads about war, terrorism, environmental destruction, and political corruption. His concern often sounds shallow because he jumps between subjects and repeats whatever he has most recently heard. But the emotional pattern underneath is consistent. He sees suffering everywhere and has absolutely no idea where to put it. Tony tells him to focus on his own life, which is a reasonable response. It is also nearly impossible for AJ because his own life has never felt earned or clean. The Soprano family solves discomfort through consumption. Eat something, buy something, take a trip, get a new car, find a job through a connection. Every solution teaches AJ to bury pain beneath distraction rather than actually deal with it. After the breakup, Tony pushes AJ toward the sons of his associates. The two Jasons offer action, money, status, and the borrowed excitement of criminal power. AJ ends up joining them when they punish a student who owes money, helping hold him while acid gets poured onto his feet. For a moment, AJ approaches the hardness people always claimed he was missing. He cannot digest what happened. He goes home with it, and it follows him. A different person might turn the experience into a story about loyalty or business. AJ absorbs the victim's pain and carries it home with him. And look, sensitivity does not erase his participation. His guilt does not repair the damage. But it does reveal something important. This is why he could never become Tony. Tony turns guilt into anger, appetite, jokes, therapy language, and another day at the office. AJ has no reliable way of transforming guilt into something livable. Everything stays inside him until his body and mind start shutting down. The pool scene is where all of that lands, and I think it is one of the most quietly devastating scenes in the entire series. AJ ties a cinder block to his leg, puts a bag over his head, and jumps into the same pool where Tony used to play with the ducks. The pool that represented everything Tony feared losing in Season 1. AJ chose that specific place. The rope is too long. He sinks to the bottom and then floats back up, tangled and panicking, caught between wanting to die and his body refusing to let him. That detail is almost too painful to sit with. He could not even succeed at this. He is fighting against the weight he tied to himself, gasping in his father's pool, and that is where Tony finds him. Tony hears him and runs outside. He jumps in wearing his clothes, pulls AJ up, and at first the anger takes over. He asks what is wrong with him. Then AJ collapses against his father, sobbing, and Tony's voice changes in a way you almost never hear from him. He calls him baby. The boss disappears. The disappointed father disappears. For a few seconds, there is just a man holding his drowning child, and it is the most tender Tony Soprano ever gets. That scene breaks you not because it is dramatic, but because it shows you what was always possible. The love was always there. Tony always had that gentleness somewhere inside him. AJ spent his whole life reaching for it and mostly getting the other version. By the time he gets the real thing, he is shaking next to a cinder block at the bottom of a pool. Even after the hospital, the family goes straight back to familiar habits. AJ talks about joining the army and for once actually sounds committed to something. Tony and Carmela get frightened immediately and redirect him towards something safer. Tony gets him work through a film company connection and helps provide another expensive car. AJ ends the series with a job, a girlfriend, and a comfortable path arranged by his father. It may keep him alive. But it also continues the exact pattern that helped make him helpless. Every time AJ reaches an edge, his parents move the edge farther away. They call it protection. AJ experiences life as something arranged by other people. Did he have any chance? A small one, maybe. With consistent boundaries, earlier treatment, real responsibility, and parents who could have been honest about what funded the house, AJ might have developed differently. He had genuine moments of curiosity, empathy, loyalty, and effort. Those qualities needed structure. They grew inside denial instead. AJ still owns his cruelty, his laziness, and his entitlement. Understanding him should not require pretending those traits are harmless. The fair judgment is that he was an ordinary, vulnerable kid raised inside an extraordinary contradiction. Everyone demanded that he become strong. Nobody could agree on what strength actually meant. Tony wanted toughness without criminality, confidence without danger, independence without distance, and gratitude without questions. No son alive could satisfy all of that. Maybe viewers hate AJ because his failures are too familiar. Most of us will never order a murder or run a criminal empire. But many people have wasted time, disappointed their parents, stayed in bed too long, depended on someone else, abandoned a plan, or felt completely crushed by problems they could not solve. Tony's evil arrives with charisma and cinematic power. AJ's weakness sits in the kitchen wearing a bathrobe. One is entertaining. The other feels uncomfortably close to home. AJ never becomes the son Tony imagined. That may have actually saved a part of him. Cruelty still sickened him. Moral injuries stayed painful. The family story never fully convinced him. Those limitations made him miserable, dependent, and genuinely difficult to watch. They also kept him human. The saddest truth is that AJ probably never had much chance of becoming healthy inside that house. Becoming Tony would have destroyed him one way. Failing to become Tony destroyed him another. He spent his childhood protected from the family business and his adulthood living off its rewards, permanently trapped between the disgust he felt and the dependence he could not shake. By the final dinner, AJ can repeat the family's newest hopeful line and focus on the good times. He says it was something that almost looks like peace. Maybe that is progress. Or maybe it is just the most recent story the family has given him to survive on, the same way they always have. A car, a job, a reason to keep going. He sits there beside the people who love him, surrounded by comfort purchased through choices he will never fully face, and for one last moment everything looks almost normal. AJ Soprano is frustrating because he keeps receiving chances and rarely knows what to do with them. He is tragic because nobody ever taught him how. Beneath all the complaints, the excuses, and the expensive cars is just a kid who spent 6 seasons asking the same question. What kind of man am I allowed to become? The family gave him money. Tony gave him fear. Carmela gave him shelter. The world gave him reasons to despair. Nobody gave him an answer.